Hello, this is Noah Fay, Department Head for Geography and Geology, and I have the pleasure of sharing with you a number of innovative things we've been doing in our department to support student success and retention. First of all, really important to note the tremendous effort the science lab staff have done in producing kits for our virtual geology students. They've never done this before, we've never done this before as a department, and in a short amount of time they figured out what we needed and how to do it well. And so big thanks to the dean and to the institution for supporting them in this effort. So one great example of work by an instructor, Ross Waldrop, in his home office is he spent considerable amount of time and personal expense in creating what is essentially a digital microscope, which works really well. An important thing we need to do in geology sometimes is to get really up close and personal with rocks and look at their mineral content, and he's been able to do that with considerable futzing with apps, lighting setups, etc., but has worked out the bugs, and it really works well, and in some ways works better than what we have available to us in the classroom. So kudos to him. So a couple of examples of things that we've been doing that fall under the umbrella of open pedagogy, the idea that students aren't empty vessels and we just pour in the knowledge, but in fact they have access to the near entirety of human knowledge in their pockets, and our job is to really guide them in using that knowledge and creating content themselves. And so one example is we're starting to use Flipgrid. It is a video recording, editing, and sharing software which we can embed directly into D2L course pages. And importantly, it allows students and instructors to easily see everyone else's videos, to comment on them, to provide feedback, and it provides a more authentic, collaborative experience, especially in our online classes. This is an example of a student explaining certain properties of one of the rocks he was looking at. I'd say we're in the beta testing phase of Flipgrid, but it shows a lot of potential for our classes and students. Another example of a new thing that we're trying out is a collaborative activity of students creating, modifying, receiving feedback on content using Google Docs and Google Sheets. So this is created by Ann Huth, where she has students create a certain image related to geologic time. She and other students can comment on it, they can comment on each other's comments, and through that provide some process for improving that content and making revisions. This again, I would say, is in the beta testing phase, but it also shows a lot of promises and working quite well. So an important part of our curriculum is field trips, and so even in COVID mode, even in virtual classes, we need to maintain that field trip opportunity for students. And so we've been doing that a number of ways. One is we've been working very hard on self-guided and virtual field trips. This is an example of a self-guided field trip guide. On the right, this is a GIS-based guide with pins on a map and images and explanations for what's there. So students can go out in the field and use this guide with their phone. This is what I'm showing below, and it's almost as if the instructor were standing there with them. This one is a geology guide tour to the Sentinel Peak area. Another example are virtual field trips. These are field trips that you do from home using a screen. And thanks to the sabbatical program a few years ago, I developed some virtual field trips to northern Arizona, to Grand Canyon and some other places, and using some imagery technology which allows it to be a really immersive experience. With, for example, this is extremely high resolution panorama that's been annotated. There are videos that go along with these types of images which explain what's there. And they're so high resolution you can zoom way in and pan around and see incredible detail even from far away. Another piece of this are what we call photospheres. This is a screenshot of a photosphere, so I can't show you exactly how it works, but it's basically a 360-degree photo all around you, and you can move it and look in any direction you like. It's as good as standing there as you can get using a virtual field trip like this. And finally, two programs that we've been involved with. This one in the past called GeoPathways. This was a collaborative grant-funded project between U of A Geosciences and Pima, and this was a program to improve the job skills, resume writing, cover letter, that sort of thing of transfer students in the geosciences, and then to place them with internships with local companies, local government agencies, etc., related to their interests in the geosciences. This is a big success, as noted by one measure that a number of those students in those internships then got full-time employment with those organizations. And finally, the last thing here is a project which is just getting started and is looking to make steps to address what is a considerable race and ethnicity gap in sciences. It's particularly acute in geosciences. And so while the age and gender gap has been closing over the past couple of decades, the race and ethnicity one really hasn't in the geosciences. And so this is a collaborative effort to write a proposal to the National Science Foundation. It's led by Professor Andy Cohen at U of A Geosciences, involving a number of community and tribal colleges in the Southwest to create a residential research experience for community college students at U of A during the summer. So this is very preliminary. We're probably at least 18 months from this program even getting started. But just the conversation between the organizations, between the community tribal colleges and U of A, are an important step for us making sure we're aware of this situation and making efforts to try to close